You want to know the biggest fucking issue with learning languages? Staying on the same one. Here's what you do. You pick one, right? You're listening to me. You pick one, and you stay on that one. That's how you do it. That's how you win. That's how I've always won, because I have never lost once in my life, of course. It's fucking, um, you know, that's what you do. But, alright. Alright. How do I look there? Just as much as I think the ideas are important, I doubly think that the atmosphere in which they're presented are also important. The place that you inhabit when you're making these ideas, when you're presenting these ideas, tells just as much. Oh, shit. I think the ideas that you present are just as important as the atmosphere that you present them in. The place that you inhabit tells a lot about the person who's creating the ideas or speaking the ideas. It tells us about why someone like this would believe the things that they do. The posters on their walls say so much about them individually as a person. There's so much that we could derive from these little bitty details inside of one person's house. And as someone who seems to be very obsessed with just creating an image on YouTube or embodying some sort of trait that has something to do with myself, I tend to be very into this idea because I believe that the atmosphere in which the ideas are brought about, which they're spoken in, tell us about the ideas themselves, tell us about the person who's making them, and if you know about the person who's making them, then you know more about the ideas. And I tend to be rather dissatisfied with the atmosphere that I am surrounded in, because I live in a living room. I don't have anything to sit there and point to go, wow, this poster over here means this, or wow, this thing over here means this. And not even just point to it to make a point, but just have it in the background, or just have it linger there for it to make its own point subtly. I can't have any of that, and thus I think a big part of what makes a video special and individual is now lost. And so, with that being the case, a lot of the time, there's certain vlogs that I just am completely barred off from, that I just don't want to do, or outright cannot do, because I do not have that added element of a proper room to sit there and go, okay, this thing is over here, let's talk about that thing. A lot of my favorite vloggers, a lot of their videos that they do, just taking things off their shelf and saying what it is, saying what it means, oftentimes with a larger point attached to it. I can't really do that. Closest thing to that I can do is make videos talking about how I live in a goddamn living room and there's nothing to talk about. And so, the cult of personality is changed. The personality it embodies is changed. Because we're not talking about influences, we're not talking about media. Instead, we're having this very meta conversation of, I can't talk about those influences because I can't surround myself with them. That's where the problem lies. That's why so many of the ideas that I want to do, I just can't. Oh boy. Somehow I found myself awake in the daytime. I'm changing my sleep schedule. This is new. This is a new concept to me. I'm awake, and there's sun out. I can go out in the sun. I can look at it. That's a real thing that I can do. If you don't believe me, look at the window. It's out there. But what I'm talking about today is this weird problem I have with my own vlogs and to an extent other vlogs as well, is just seeing things in the background, just looking around your room and seeing stuff. That's the issue. Okay, let's see how I look. Let's see what this looks like. Let's see how this works, my dude. I didn't start fast. The thing with vlogs is that they it out in my Skelebro and Parasocial Relationships video, vlogs and Let's Plays as a medium are meant to communicate a one-sided relationship with the audience and the viewer. Fuck, I said that wrong. With the audience and the creator. What they're meant to do is foster this big relationship in the audience member, and the creator knows nothing about it. You know what my main issue with a lot of my own content is? It's my inability to record myself. Not just looking at myself on camera and things like that. That obviously horrifies me, but more so the background of my own home, because I live in a living room, as many of you know, and there's not much that I can actually do to change my living space and to make it more expressive of myself. For one reason, I live with other people and I try to hide as much of my own interest and just things about myself. In general, I have not spoken to my own cousin in months. In fact, the one time that I did today, my heart started racing, and as soon as I got up from the couch, I felt as if I needed to sit back down just because my heart was going so fast. You know, these are the levels of hiding stuff from your own family that I've gotten to. And, I mean, that specific instance, too, it was over, not just, like, speaking to him or saying words to him, it was over the potential of him seeing what was on my 3DS screen, because I was watching a Psy video at the time, and like just down on the recommended bar you could see like fuck Digibro, and it had like this fat guy, because you know Psy's a fat guy, and like just that title, that weird like call-outy petty title, and the fact that it was a fat guy, like I couldn't stop thinking about it. The potential of him seeing that I was looking at a video of a fat guy calling someone out on the internet, just how petty and weird that would look. And I mean, the video itself was not even like a call-out video, you know, it was a joke title, but just the fact that I had like a fat guy on the video screen, in the recommended bar. Not even that I was watching his video, just in the recommended bar, because I had already finished the video, and on the 3DS app it just says YouTube on the top screen, so it doesn't even show the thumbnail or the video anymore. But the fact that that was in my recommended scared me, that he would see that. And I said like 2 words to the guy, and both times my delivery was just so off-put and bad that my voice actually showed that I was uncomfortable, that I was scared that I was saying these things, and it felt weird. It felt weird saying those things, and the fact that I was uncomfortable showed through my tone and my voice, and it's not like an analytical thing, because I analyze a lot of my own stuff that I do. I analyze a lot of what other people do. I think that uncomfort could just be shown through my voice to anybody. And so that really scared me. His reaction to me being uncomfortable just responding to him really scared me. And as I said, I haven't spoken to the man in months, despite the fact that I live in the living room where he frequently sits in. I just always have my headphones on. I just always am doing something else, trying to seclude myself. And much of the time I'm awake at night when everybody is asleep. When he wakes up to get to the work, I hide under the covers, so so he cannot see me. And it's weird. It's weird to be like this, to be this social outcast who is just hiding from their own family. No one does this. And yeah, I have no idea what I was going through with that point, what I was trying to express, but yeah, I live in a living room is what I'm trying to get across. And so in light of that, there's very little that I can put on my walls or put around that expresses who I am for, anxiety purposes, and also for the fact that other people share the rooms, so they're going to want to put up their own stuff, And so I run into that problem, and when I'm recording vlogs, when I'm recording anything, I end up just focusing on one little corner of the room. If I record at all on a camera, which oftentimes I'm recording from my tablet, so I have to, because I lack the proficient editing software on Linux to make a video that's with an image on it, because the editor that I use is really bad. So I end up using the tablet for a lot of that, and I just focus on one part of it. I mean, I would look even worse than I already do if I recorded anything on the tablet. It would look really bad, and so that's just out of the window. Just can't do that. And so, God, being awake at the daytime is hard. What I end up doing is just not recording these face-to-face types of things. The reason I want to is to show off. Oh my God, this is fucking terrible. About YouTube is that it's meant to make us learn about other people. Now, there are other things that can be thrown up on here, like big art projects and all kinds of things. You can do anything on YouTube, but this type of parasocial, personality-based content is what thrives on here. It's what's promoted on here for its length, and I think that type of parasocial relationship, that type of learning about other people type of content is best expressed in the camera. When you're in the camera, you can make eye contact, you can make people feel you as a person. You can look directly at them and say, "Hey dude, I'm talking to you," in there. And when you're trying to express something about yourself, a lot of the time, these things can be said just through your mannerisms, through the way you dress, through the way your hair is. Anything about you, just on you, can potentially say something about you. Conclusions can be drawn from it. Little bitty points are inside of that. But even more so, I think the way people's rooms are put together say an infinite amount about who they are. And this is one of the reasons why I love the vlogs of people who like nerd stuff. Is not just because I'm into nerd stuff, it's because I love the way that they set up their rooms all individually. Every time someone makes a video about their room, I will immediately go to it. Sometimes I look to people's videos just for those things. And it never ceases to fascinate me, because the way someone's room is set up says something about themselves. The specific albums you put up, the posters you put up, says something about your tastes, and it says something about you for putting it up there in the first place. And I just find these things so fascinating, even in the layout. Like, the mere fact that you laid something out in a certain way, when you get down to the specifics of it, when you get down to the small details, it starts to make sense as to how it's organized, as to how the entire room is laid out when you really think about the way someone's personality is and who they are. And these things, I believe, add a lot to the ideas someone presents in their video. Like a video like this, where I'm just giving an idea about something, I'm telling you about it. I think those things are often aided by the fact that you have something in the background. If you were to talk about anime, if you were to talk about video games, the fact that you have those things littered all over your room means that you can always point to it or not point to it at all. If you're talking about something that's related to it, it can be in there in the background, and if it's there in the background, we can derive conclusions about your tastes just by knowing that thing's there if we have any knowledge about it. And I think that's very helpful in a subtle sense, because not only are you giving your point, parts of yourself are in the background to think about. And I believe that this is the ultimate type of vlogging content, not just sitting there and talking about whatever you have to say, having your room specifically built in such a way that it expresses something about yourself. And I believe, in most cases, anybody can do this with their room, even in incredibly simple setups. The fact that it's simple says something about you. In my case, I'm trapped in a living room at the current moment. I don't really have a lot of posters or anything like that that say something about my taste. That always seems to be the optimal to me. It always seems to be having bookshelves with things on them and having posters that say something, having all these things related to media and just surrounding myself with them. Because I see that as my personality, I see that as who I am, I see that as something I would do. It's just that the financial limits that I'm currently within do not allow me to do that. And so, as a result, a part of myself cannot be expressed. And I do think that that's a hindrance on my vlogs. I think that's a hindrance on the content that I make, because, as I said, the ideas that I'm presenting cannot be aided by the background in any sense. Living in a living room sort of relegates me to more aestheticized voiceover content, where instead of putting myself out in the open and having the background be their own form of point, being their own point there, I instead opt for the editing to mean something in TV simulator types of effects. A moment of appreciation is a good example of this, where in that video, what I did was put footage of this dinosaur anime. I can't remember what it was called, Hi-Fi Digital Set or something to that effect. Then I edited the specific clips I was choosing, and then I put TV simulator and a number of other effects over it. It communicated a point about myself, and it communicated an aesthetic within the video, and ultimately it aided the points indirectly. Even though it didn't really say anything about what I was saying, it still did, because the aesthetic was just so strong that it ended up eliciting a feeling within the viewer that was specific to that video, even if the footage was not necessarily relevant. And so I think through clever editing choices and through maybe, picking right game footage or something like that says something about you, we can get around this thing, but it's always different. It's never exactly the same as just showing your living space. Showing your living space is like the pinnacle of saying something about you without directly saying it, you know? But I found myself trying to get out of this problem through editing just temporarily until I can build my own cave of self, I suppose. But until that day comes, I'm stuck with trying to work around my limitations.